the cable channel. Okay, Rich we're troubleshooting here. You can? Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. The caller said she can now hear us on the TV, so we should be all good.
Okay. Continue on with the agenda under item 4. The next is the election of the deputy mayor. I'll take nominations.
I'll nominate Paul.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Paul Bissonnette. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close. Jake?
Councillor Eastman,
Approve.
Councillor Morrison,
Approve.
Councillor Bissonnette,
I will abstain.
Mayor Stewart,
Approve.
Councillor Ormsby,
Approve.
Councillor Downs,
Approve.
Councillor Rankin.
Approve.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I may not have had sound, but to the new council members that were reelected. I'd said earlier inside that we have a good team here, including all the employees with the town, and certainly going in the right direction. I expect that to continue through this year also. So time to go back to work, I guess. The next is committee assignment discussion. If anybody has something that they want to change or want to do differently, could you email me this week? I'd like to get those wrapped up. If everybody's okay where they're at, we'll keep the same committee assignments, and that way we can. I know we have a committee meeting coming up on our next meeting. So if anybody wants to change or wants to do something different, try to let me know by the middle of next week so we can make those changes. And if not, we will continue on what we've done. We've done good work there, and I appreciate everybody's work on those committees. So next is presentation of town council recognitions. I really do wish we were in person on this. Great pleasure here. Sue, do you want to run with this one, or Chief?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Stewart. We have two separate awards this evening, one for 3 and the other for 2, one of whom can't be here, and then there are 2 additional ones. The other 3 involved will be at the meeting on the 27th, the scheduling, etc. But the first one is a presentation to Public Safety Director Sean Gagan, Officer Kayla Brooks, and Officer Matthew Schmidt. Sometimes the difference between life and death for a person experiencing a mental health crisis is finding people who can cut through a despondent fog, calm down an out of control rage, or just extend the hand of help. On June 25th, 2021, Public Safety Director Sean Gagan, Officer Matthew Schmidt, Officer Kayla Brooks, and Hancock County Sergeant Dan Harlan provided that lifeline. This call included our most seasoned law enforcement professional in public safety, Director Gagan, Officer Brooks, who had only been on staff for a month and a half at the time of the call, and Officer Schmidt, who has been with the department for 7.5 years and will be training as our new canine officer shortly. Bucksport Police personnel responded to a call that day that involved a man balanced on the outside of the bridge railing of the Edward Teagan Bridge. He was in an extremely despondent condition and made it clear that he intended to end his life. Officers Schmidt and Brooks initiated conversation with the young man, and Public Safety Director Gagan worked to initiate a water rescue effort if that became necessary. Hancock County Sergeant Harlan arrived and joined Officers Schmidt and Brooks in conversing with the young man. The combined efforts of the officers convinced the man to come back over the bridge railing after nearly half an hour of conversation. In his recommendation letter, Deputy Chief David Winchester stated, I have no question without the intervention of these caring, trained professionals, this man would have succeeded in his attempt and would have likely not survived the waters below. We are so very fortunate to have such a caring, compassionate, and well-trained team of public safety professionals working on behalf of the town of Bucksport. Public Safety Director Gagan, Officer Schmidt, and Officer Brooks, thank you on behalf of the Bucksport Town Council and the residents of Bucksport for your actions on June 25th, 2021, which saved a man's life. At this time, they're doing presentations at the Ward of the Pins, and then they'll be presenting the other awards that we had made for each of these people. Deputy Chief Winchester, did you have anything that you wish to say? You just shut me off? That's not good. There he is. I guess not. Okay, the second presentation is to the officer present tonight to receive this is Officer Eric Marcel, but also involved in this particular event was Officer Gerald Lowe and firefighter paramedic Captains Gavlik and Payson. Those three will receive their recognitions at the next meeting, but Officer Marcel is here this evening. The town of Bucksport is truly fortunate to have an exceptionally well-trained professional team of emergency medical responders. Their actions on a daily basis result in saving lives in the town of Bucksport and this region. Not so common is for law enforcement officers to take the lead in patient treatment prior to the arrival of EMS personnel. On October 31st, 2021, Officers Lowe and Marcel were the first on the scene in response to a call involving an unresponsive male. They immediately began administering CPR and also used their AED to attempt to resuscitate the patient. EMS personnel were already on another call, and Officers Lowe and Marcel continued this work not only until EMS personnel arrived, but continued to work after their arrival. According to Captain Gavlik, the officers were a valuable assistance to the EMS crew with obtaining equipment from the ambulance, continuing as a team in performing compressions, and later assisted in packaging the patient to prepare for transport. Captain Payson, the transporting paramedic for the call, states in her letter of recommendation that the patient's status was in large part a result of the teamwork of Bucksport Public Safety, including the program we instituted to train the police department in CPR and the use of AEDs. This call exemplifies what public safety teamwork is all about. Due to the actions of Officers Marcel and Lowe and two off-duty medics who answered the call, this person at the time of this letter is still with us. The town of Bucksport wishes to thank Officer Marcel this evening for his efforts on October 31st, 2021, which resulted in saving a life. Officer Lowe and paramedic captains John Gavalik and Pamela Payson will be recognized for their efforts on this call at the January 27th meeting. We here in Bucksport are so very fortunate to have a well-trained, cooperative public safety team. On behalf of the town of Bucksport, we extend our thanks. And Public Safety Director Gagan just informed me that their mic is not working there, which is why they didn't say something before. But I think it's fair to say that these two incidents are yet more examples of the good work that the people in our public safety department do for us on a daily basis. And without their expertise, the outcome for these two individuals would have been much different.
Great. Thanks, Sue. Chief, thanks. Starts at the top with great leadership, and you guys exemplify that very well, and shows with your staff. So keep up the good work, and thank you. Next is consider minutes of previous meetings. We have council minutes from 12/9/21. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Next is correspondence. First is Down East Transportation ridership reports for October, November, and December. Still getting good ridership. Next is a Maine Community Foundation donation to the animal shelter. Well appreciated. SHAPE program designation. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read that. Again, Chief Denning and the fire department looks like they're really stepping up and should be able to get that designation taken care of, and good work all the way around there from all the departments. And then we have several police calls to Orland and Verona, and Orland again in December. Any questions on any of those? All right. 8 ordinances considered or introduced. We have none. Item 9 is Main Street, discussion items. First is Main Street Bucksport request. I see we have Ron and John Paul here. Ron?
First, did you all receive the additional information that I sent that was provided by Main Street Bucksport? It's also on our website with the meeting notice.
Thank you, Sue. I was just going to remind everybody of that. But as requested before, we try to give you a picture of the first 6 months of this year. I'll let John Paul do that. He's our treasurer, sort of go over it with you. But it is showing a deficit. And what I would add to that was, even though we have like the Bridge the Gap race due to happen in May, and we did raise a few funds from that, the expenditures, you know, to get that going have to be paid up front. So even though we'll be out seeking sponsors, we'll probably be in a negative position by then. The other thing I would add is that we have added 3 new board members, and we've added some youth to the board, which I think is significant because last night we had our first board meeting with those people, all of them present, and it really, there was some new vigor, I would say, about making things happen, which is what we've needed and what was hard to drum up during COVID. So I guess based upon that, you know, there were many, many good ideas last night about how to move forward. It's just now to gather the volunteers back to get them in line to be able to pull some of this off and not stretch the ED, which she is still part-time. But I guess that's what I have to report, and certainly available for any questions that anybody may have. Of course, you know, COVID's still out there, so some of what was suggested, I think they were pretty well aware of that, and they took into account that most of the things that we would need to do would need to be outside. But two of the people that have joined the board kind of had showed their stuff a little bit. They did the thing up at Wilson Hall at Halloween, you know, to raise money for the library. And I think that was a real positive event. I know I went and it was well attended and they did raise some money. So I think the other side of COVID, which I think all of us hope is soon, things are looking better.
Thanks, Ron. Anybody got any questions for Ron? If not, I'll let John Paul speak on the finances piece.
Yeah, I had a couple questions, but it's more on the finances, so I can ask it after.
All right, thanks. John Paul?
Yes, thank you for the time. Hopefully the information I sent out is helpful. You know, if you look at the schedule that has a 6-month projection, our current bank balance at the end of the year was $32,828. Of that, we have reserves set aside to finish the Museum in the Streets project. We got a grant in December of $10,000 from Maine Community Foundation. 3,500 of that is for administrative costs, so that's not cost. Well, it is and it isn't, but it's not additional cost to the organization. So 6,500 is what is, I'll call, variable cost of the project we intend to do. And then there was $1,000 raised through an event at Brown Hall during Christmas, and it was that is designated for downtown beautification. That a committee was just formed, and you'll be hearing a lot more from that in the future. But that money was earmarked for that. So you take out that $20,000, and it leaves available funds of, you know, $12,828. And our expenses for the first 6 months, I spelled out, come to $16,781, leaving a deficit of $3,953. Now, I didn't build in any additional revenue in that 6 months. You know, that, like Ron mentioned, we fully intend to have the Bridge the Gap race, but this time last year we fully intended to have it, and we didn't. So I don't know that we can necessarily count on that. If we do, that'd be great, but it's not a lot of revenue that comes in from that. It's mostly offset by the expenses we have. And as Ron mentioned, we're thinking of items to have, but at this point we are kind of on hold on some of them because of you know, the same reason that we're having this meeting by Zoom tonight. So I get at this point I'll field any questions you have. And
Yep. Ed, do you have something?
Yeah. One question I had was, with last year, part of the revenue being the PPP for 5207, the main community grant for 10,000, the Hancock County grant for 2,765, where those were a one-time deal and they're not going to be happening again, as far as I know. And asking for 5,000 from the town now. What's the plan this year? Will you be coming to the town for more money, a bigger amount of money for budget time, or what do you anticipate?
All right, so we do intend to submit for another Maine Community Foundation grant. The one we received is kind of a unique grant under their entrepreneur program. So the regular annual grant cycle has opened up, and that'll be closing in February 15th. So we plan to submit a grant for that. Never know if we're going to get it. The beauty of this year, they're recognizing that in the past, those grants always had to be for events, and they are allowing nonprofits to submit for a grant for just operating expenses. So I think that's the avenue we're going to intend to go this year, but they're very competitive. Whether we'll get one or not, I don't know. Maine Community Foundation's been very generous to the town of Bucksport, as Mayor Stewart, stated. The animal shelter got a grant. We got a grant just recently, so whether we will be successful or not. But our big hope is that things open up and we start having our events again, and we get back on that cycle of our events being a component of our revenue stream. And then also we did have the annual appeal this year, which we did not do last year because we were asking for money for the Bucks program. It wasn't a huge success, but it did bring in $1,300 in a year that we weren't out in the public as much as we have in the past. So we would do that again. We'll and in the past when we used to have other fundraising events housed at people's houses and stuff throughout the year, and those were fairly successful. So we're looking at multiple options. A lot of it's depending on where the virus takes us.
Do you have another one, Ed?
I know you'll let us know when it's budget time, but do you anticipate asking for more money, a larger amount this year to offset?
I think it's too early to tell that, but I would say if we did, it would be as much because we're showing that we're doing something new and unique that is relieving Rich of some of his, not of his responsibilities, but of his wish list, if you will. I think that's the approach that we intend to take, that if we can find where we're more value added to the town by being able to do something extra, then maybe we'll ask for more money. If we're operating as business as usual, probably not.
Okay, thank you.
can I add just a little to that?
Yep.
So at least this is the way the new members of the board last night showed a lot of enthusiasm for again, remember our mission is to make a vibrant and kind of livable downtown. I mean, that's what Main Street program nationally, in Maine, locally is all about. And so to do that, you know, you can have events, but underlying all that, to make it vibrant, you've got to make it vibrant for merchants. So, I mean, if we lost the bookstore, if we lost the pet store, if we lost 2 more restaurants, it would be hard to say that we have a beautiful waterfront and people use it, but would it be vibrant with people doing commerce and other things? And we don't have a chamber anymore. So we sort of have this dual role, and maybe John Paul won't agree, but what I think might happen when we came and said, look, we did this Bucks program, now we need to, that was more of a, I don't want to call it a giveaway, but it tried to make an extraordinary deal. We can't do that all the time. We can't ask citizens to backstop a commercial deal. So one of the things we need to do is, we have this marketing plan now, and I think in talking with Rich and Sue had a conversation, was what may happen is as the town, you know, has a new website, the town wants to move forward to make itself attractive to visitors. You know, it might be that sort of Main Street meets and Rich says, this would be great to try to get something going. Can you help us with this? Well, we may not have the money for that. So it may be sort of on a ask basis. And then we'd have to decide, does that meet our mission? Is that something we can take on? Or do we just stick with trying to have events, which in general, when we did them before, put a lot of pressure on the ED to organize and do everything else. And we didn't really have the time we needed maybe to make sure that there was a brochure for the town that was over at Fort Knox, or, you know, other things like that, that all cost money and may not directly bring money in. So that's, and it really wouldn't be fair to the town to come forward to begin with and say, you know, give us 30,000 and we'll do some stuff. So I don't know if that's helpful or not. It's probably worth discussing. If Rich can maybe weigh in if that's something he even envisions, or the town even wants to envision. But there's much of promotion and events and attracting people, making the town, the downtown in particular, attractive, that's going to take some effort. And you know, you could hire it out, but I have quite a bit of experience in that, and it's going to be unbelievably expensive.
Anybody else have any questions? I have one, just looking at the finances piece, and maybe I missed your interpretation or your explanation, John Paul. The grant was for 10,000 from Maine Community Foundation, but you're only showing a revenue of 6,500. Where's the other 3,500?
No, so the revenue all came in 2021. That's why it's in our bank account. The grant, as it was written, was for, we requested $10,000, received $10,000. The expense of the request was $6,500 for the program, $3,500 to administer the program. So if you think of it as, let's say the town of Bucksport wrote that grant, and you got $10,000, and Sue was going to administer it. Well, you're not paying Sue $3,500 more to administer it. That's expense that we already incur, Mary's salary, and the administrative cost of running it. So that's no additional cost to us, but it helps cover that cost. That's why, on a cash flow basis, all we're going to take out of our bank account to run the program is a $6,500 variable cost that's going to cost to run the program, not the administrative component of it. So that's why you only see $6,500 on the expense side. And forgive me if you don't understand. I'm not doing a good job, so I hope.
No, I'm just, I guess a 35% administrative fee is fairly high, isn't it?
Well,
I mean,
usually foundations don't allow that much. They only allow 20%. I think they're recognizing that nonprofits have struggled getting revenue during these COVID times, so it was sort of a carrot, if you will, to encourage them to have programs and help them stay vital. So it's kind of a one-time gift from the Maine Community Foundation that they're recognizing that it's a high administrative cost, and you could argue whether it's really costing us $35, but they're giving us the $35 for our administration.
Okay, and the last question I have on the revenue piece, and again, it's you have set aside 12.5 for a museum in the streets, but I saw that we only spent.
Yep. So that's
half of
money that we spent in 2021. When the project is finished in 2022, it'll be an additional $12,500. That's once the signs are completed, the installation of them. The expense we've already spent is for the making of those signs, the programming and all the legwork that the organization who we contracted to do. Then once the signs get completed and get installed, it's going to be, that money will be spent in 2022.
Peter, an example of that would be we hired Julia Gray as an outside consultant, and she helped, put the signs together and everything else. I mean, so that was part of it.
Sure. And again, I'm just asking because it just.
Yep.
I don't know if it seems convenient that it's half the cost, and it makes it. It just was it truly half the cost, or is that making the numbers add? Is what I'm asking.
No, those are committed costs that we know we're going to have to pay out. If you think of it as you had a construction job, and some of it you pay as it's being done, and some you pay once it's completed. $12,500 to be paid once the job is completed.
So that is a contracted cost, was 12.5.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? How would the council like to proceed? If we won't vote on this tonight, if the council wants to proceed with this, we'll have a resolve on our next meeting to vote on.
I say no, we should put the resolve here.
Okay. We can put the resolve on for the next meeting for the request, and then if we have additional questions or discussion that we need to have at that time, we can have it prior to the vote. So we will bring it up for a vote, guys, at our next meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. Next item is Waterfront Events Committee. I assume that's, who was on that talking about the fees and stuff? Sue, was that you? Or is that Rich? Or is that?
That's it's town employees. It's Jacob, myself, Public Safety Director Gagan, Deputy Police Chief Winchester, Deputy Fire Chief Denning, and Code Officer Cavelli.
I know you guys have done some work on it, so who wants to, looks like Jake's ready to take the lead on it, so.
I can. I'm always willing, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, a while back, the council asked us to kind of take a look at our waterfront use policy, and also our event and festival process. One of the reasons was we were running into events that were coming before us and in turn coming before the council that didn't really fit into our festival and public entertainment license. And so one of the tasks of this committee is kind of defining events that do qualify for a a festival license and events that don't qualify for one. And so we have started to update the policy, but one of the roadblocks that we've really run into, and I know it's been mentioned by counselors at least once or twice, is whether or not, or what sort of events, I should say, the town wants to be charging public safety fees for. Whether the town wants to be charging for the public safety's presence at all events, at none events, for certain events, for certain, whether it's profit, non-profit. And so the committee felt that we couldn't really go much further without knowing kind of where the council stood on this matter. Originally, where we were going to kind of leave it was we were going to leave it on a case-by-case basis. But after some discussion, we felt that could cause some trouble down the line in someone claiming that the town had a bias towards their group. And so we're really at a little bit of a standstill right now, and the group was hoping that we could get a little bit of feedback from the council as to where you folks would like us, how you'd like us to move forward.
Sure, appreciate that. Anybody have any comments?
I do.
Yep.
Well, I guess when we look at case-by-case basis, I would refer back to our police department, and if they require to add on more people in order to cover an event, then that's our case. So if we need to hire on, or shift another 1 or 2 police officers that day to cover the event, that's the case. If we have something that doesn't need extra coverage, then we wouldn't charge a fee for it. That's the way I look at it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Dan just said. If it's something that, just like what he said, if they don't need to have part-time brought in to help assist, then we don't charge for it. But I think we asked a while ago, and maybe we saw it, I don't remember seeing it, but do they have a formula on how many officers per how many people, like a concert? They must have a...
Yeah, Chief, you want to take that one?
Yeah, we can you hear me all right? Is that mic working, Mr. Mayor? Okay.
Yep.
We really judge it by the number of people, and the Bay Festival is a prime example of the number of people when we started that way back when. We had Beatlemania down there, and the Sprague Dock was going to be full of people, like thousands of people down there. So we really needed everyone that we had on the force to work that weekend. Plus, we'd call like the sheriff's office and state police to let them know the event was going on, and if we need to back up, who they'd have on in the immediate area to help us out. So it's really a matter of events that, it's kind of complicated, but the events that you have down there, like the art festival and stuff, when they set up tents and stuff the night before, sometimes we're lucky, but sometimes we get vandalism, we've had thefts down there. We patrol as much as we can, but if you've got a couple guys on and they're on calls and they can't patrol it, so it's really hit or miss for all of these events, and it's judged by the number of people, but sometimes you can't really predict how many people, because you could have the arts festival that a lot of people like, and if it's not going to be good weather, nobody shows up, and then you have extra people on because you're thinking you're going to have a couple, 200, 300 people. So it's really hard to say how many on which event do you need. And before, we never really charged nonprofits because it's a nonprofit event. So we did discuss that in the committee too, as to we've never really charged nonprofits. So it's really out there for discussion. I know it's kind of around the barn answer, but it's so confusing at this point that that's where we're at, and we just wanted to work together to see what the council, if you don't want us to charge them, we're okay with that. If you want us to charge, we are. I mean, there's an unscheduled overtime budget there. We do have a budget in there for the Bay Festival, which was our big event for the year. But we do have certain billing rates that we bill people also.
Sure.
It's kind of a big circle.
Paul?
This is a tough one. But I think the key here is to try to simplify it as much as possible. I don't know if any of my suggestions are going to do that, but I think I'd at least consider them. When we talk about the waterfront and what its ultimate, why it's there, right? Like, it's there for the public to use every day. And I'm not going to bore everyone with what its intended purpose is, but when we start to, it's kind of like a road. The road's there for a reason, and if we change the use of that reason for a specific purpose such as this, there needs to be safety measures taken. So to me, I think it begs the question: profit, non-profit. If we're changing for a temporary amount of time the intended purpose of the waterfront, then I think we're running the risk of something that happening, and we need to have presence down there. Now, how the council wants to go in terms of charging, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think I will say this: if we are changing the intended purpose of this area, then I think we need to consider the fact that if we're bringing on additional police resources, which we're not swimming in, quite frankly, then we should consider that we're charging a fee in order to make up the difference there. And I guess I'll stop there.
Okay.
And also, just to bring it up, that certain events, and we're talking numbers, I mean, Bay Festival, we usually put on extra fire and ambulance crew also, because with the number of people is bound for something to happen. We've always got an ambulance ready to roll rather than have them on a call like we talked about tonight and not have the ambulance down there. So it is really the whole building for some events. The ambulance is more based on the number of people, the event itself, the age of people, what the event's all about, things of that nature. But sometimes they are in with us also.
Danny?
And just the last point, I certainly don't want to take away from the any value of any of the things that we're talking about, Bay Festival or anything, even down to a group of 10 people using it for an hour and a half. I'm just saying that it's changing that intended purpose, and if there's any sort of risk associated with that, then we need to account for that, including what Public Safety Director Gagan just said in terms of that reallocation of resources.
Danny?
Director Gagan, can you give me a little bit of like background what it would look like if we have, say, a medium-sized festival down there? So if we had, say, a festival of 300 people, you would have your normal schedule of the police officers that are supposed to work, and then would you be adding on a police officer specifically for like a detail, specifically for the event? And then for that, we would be charging for that one officer. And then because it's a part of Bucksport, we would still have other officers around, but that one officer would be the officer who is at that event the entire time. So is that how that works?
Yes, it is how it works. You have your regular patrol people on duty that are answering calls for service that come into the dispatch. An event with like 300 people, yes, we would have probably 2 or 3 extra people on, depending on, again, what the event is, what time of day it is. Like with the Bay Festival, we have a plan put together for every event. We put a crisis plan together. Just for that event, at the end of it, we need like 5 or 6 police officers just on Main Street at every crosswalk, because it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night and there's 1,000 vehicles trying to get out of town. So it really depends on the time of day. But the answer to your question is yes. We look at the event and say, it's going to be 300 people. We have X amount of people on, X amount of people on vacation. We haven't filled the patrol shift. There's a lot. Yes, there's a lot that goes into it. We would add to that just for that event so that they get the immediate service they may need at that event.
Kathy?
Just a thought that I had. Have you checked with other communities that have events on their waterfront, if they have anything that they charge or set up or plans, just as an idea?
I have to talk with more, Kathy, and that's a good point. I thought of that today, is that I can reach out to the other more. I've talked to Bangor PD quite a bit about it. Of course, with waterfront concerts and stuff like that, they have a minimum number of staff they have to put on that. So I can reach out to some of the other communities and report back if you want me to in like February, just to see what they do. I did look at Old Towns today as far as their application fee. I looked at it today for outside events and stuff, and it wasn't as intense as ours was, and it didn't ask if they needed public safety, but it had a few numbers on there, more than 100 people, less than 100 people, and I did call them today, but Director Wilcox was out of the office till next week, so I can certainly reach out to 2 or 3, 4 more communities and report back as to what they do, and then we can.
Yeah, because I know like Searsport or Belfast, they have events. It's just a thought.
Yeah, that's a very good thought, and I started to do that a little bit today, but no one was in the office.
Jim?
Yeah, what do you do, or what do you plan to do if 2,000 people show up at an event?
If we have 2,000 people like the Bay Festival, we have a full schedule for the day beyond the regular patrols, and they get assigned like 2 people to the waterfront, 1 to Main Street, and things of that nature. So we assign extra duties for those events of that magnitude, for sure. Because even the guys just on duty, the 2 or 3 guys on duty, aren't going to be able to control the 2,000 population on Main Streets. So it'll be an extra assignment.
Have you, I'm sorry, Rich, go ahead.
For some of the events or things that happen on the waterfront, it's kind of hard to gauge. So let's take what's on everybody's mind, the boat that was here. A nonprofit put that boat here. The boat was collecting revenues, and there were so many people here, and not enough time for police or anybody to do anything that Chief Gagan and myself were doing police patrol one day, because there weren't just enough people. So you're going to have a couple of things. You're going to have one, something's going to happen, and you're going to get thousands of people that you're not expecting, potentially. And 2, the other thing is we've lost the Chamber of Commerce because of finances. Main Street Bucksport is upside down with finances, that if the nonprofits continue to get charged, they're already struggling through this as we speak. And the Bridge the Gap race, which is scheduled for May 7th, will bring in 500 runners. Those 500 runners may also have guests. So now you're talking, if they each bring another person, that's another 1,000 people downtown, which will require additional police as well. So for me, it really comes down to for-profit, non-for-profit. I think how this all came up was there was a group who wanted to do a job fair on the waterfront, a for-profit organization. So that's where it is. I mean, we can't lose fact that, citizens pay for this waterfront, for the maintenance of it, for the safety of it. But we can't nickel and dime these not-for-profits. They can't handle it.
That's where I was at, Rich. And I was going to throw. I mean, we are providing a service. Our job is to bring folks into this town and there is cost associated with that, and we've got to make a determination. Are we willing to spend some of those monies to get those folks in town, and to do those things? And yes, there is going to be a cost, but we have to make sure we do it safely, and that is going to require resources that we have. And the determination, I think, is, are we willing to spend some of our resources to get those folks here? Now, where I was going to go, I was thinking of a flat fee, whether you have a for-profit or not-for-profit, figure out a flat fee for each of those type of groups. And, supply and demand may take care of itself. If somebody is charged a flat fee, regardless of the numbers, we realize we're going to eat some cost. But we also realize that, as Rich just said, 500 people coming to run may bring another 500 people with them. And that's going to really help the folks, I think, that are downtown and the town itself. When that boat showed up, that was a for-profit. But I think everybody here will recognize that there were probably more people in that town than we've seen here in years. Again, good things. And Chief, correct me, but I don't think we've had many events where we've had major issues that you guys have been overstretched with arrests and things like that, correct?
No, that's correct. I mean, at the beginning of the Bay Festival, we were pretty busy. When years went on, we weren't. And like I said, I want it to be put public that it's not about us wanting to charge money. We just want to know what the town wants to do, because we have a budget, we have to run it. We're okay with that. Totally okay with it. We just want to know which way the town wants to go.
Yeah, and I think that's where we want to get to, is what are we comfortable with on having for events. We feel that if we do have to have a nominal charge, what that wants to be. And, I'm willing to pass it back to you guys to figure out, what your costs are on certain size events, and either determine profit, non-profit, and make a determination on crowd size, what you think it's going to be, and kind of come up with a number that way. I don't think we should be charging full freight for folks to come here and have an event to charge for an officer, or 5 officers or 10 officers. I mean, that will break the bank, as Rich says. You get some of these folks are working on shoestring budgets, but they are bringing in, I think, good revenue in other ways to the town. So.
Yeah, and I truly don't think budget-wise that we have unscheduled overtime budget for a reason. And I don't think, it's not like we're having an event every weekend. We're talking, 2 or 3 events, maybe a year on the waterfront. It could be more than that. Hopefully in the future it is. So I don't think that it's going to break the budget at all if we didn't charge. But and it really depends, like Rich said. Unexpected events are one thing, and maybe, if the town wants to have these events and they're allowed to have the events, maybe Rich is right that we have to do our job. If we need personnel, we get them and we pay them. And I'm okay with that.
Well, and not for nothing, but if all of a sudden you're expecting 500 people and 10,000 show up, I'm pretty sure you can get on the phone and there'll be a bunch of different colored cars here if you need help.
Oh, absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Jim, did you have another question real quick? Or
I did. Only that the events that we're talking about that require security and all those are events that are all open to the public. But I think another maybe part of Jacob's question is, if a private entity wants to have a function on the waterfront that's not open to the public, should the town be, and it was a big event, but it was by invitation or whatever, should public safety be staffing that at no cost for a private closed event?
No, I think that's where I was going, is come up with a schedule or come up with some type of matrix that can sort of fill in those gaps based on what the event is. Again, if it's a nonprofit bringing in 1,000 people, I think it's, part of our duty to, again, it's an open place down there, open to the public. But there are some resources that we have to expend, but I don't think we need to charge it all on the backs of the folks that are putting the event on. If it is a private closed function, maybe that's our matrix that says, no, you're going to pay full force for a police officer or protect or safety or something. Again, that's limiting the public use during that time that we want to be able to use that in the public. It is public space, and if we're going to close it off, then I think that's a full freight pay. I mean, that's how I would look at it, sort of that direction.
Well, that's a good point. The other thing we have to keep in mind is that we do have things in union contracts for outside details, which I don't think that the waterfront would be an outside detail, but if CMP had their yearly banquet down there on the waterfront, is that an outside detail? It's just things to keep in mind. We do have other rules and other contracts we have to look at too.
Sure. Jim, did you have something else?
Just whether it's a public or a private event, we're not the people putting it on. All we're doing is approving the use of the property for them to be able to go in and put their event in. As far as whether or not we provide security, I guess that's up to the police department. That's really not our issue as counselors. We're not the ones that decide, okay, we're going to send X amount of people. That's what Chief Gagan does. He takes care of that.
Correct.
And I don't know how we can change what he says is the right or the wrong thing to do. I mean, he's the one that we depend on for our safety and our taking care of the public. I mean, we're allowing the public to come and go to an event that someone else is putting on, and it's still not our event. So what the chief decides to do as far as security goes, I guess that's really out of our hands. We're in no position as counselors to dictate to him how to run his business.
Right.
We're obligated under the town charter tells us that, no, that's not our job to tell them directly what to do. That's up to the town manager, and it's up to us to instruct her as to what we want. So, and we've just spent all this time talking about this situation, and really the bottom line is that whatever Chief Gagan decides, that's what we have to go with.
No, but I think we're deciding if we should charge people for that service. Not that the service isn't going to be given. That is up to Chief Gagan.
And again, I can look at other communities to see what they do and don't do, and I can bring that back to you so that we can make a decision on billing.
Yeah, I think it's from what I'm hearing and seeing, I think there's still some questions, and I appreciate you guys bringing it back to us. But maybe you got a few talking points to talk about again, just to hash around and get some more information. And I guess just to reiterate what Jim said, I certainly hope that you didn't glean from this that we're dictating on how you deploy your people.
No, not at all. I understand everyone's concerns, but not at all. I agree with him that it's our job to provide the service, and that's what we'll do.
Okay, I look forward to seeing what you have when you come back, and we'll give you a month to come back out the first meeting in February. I won't make you push it to the.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have agenda items. First is Resolve 2022-36 to approve the sewer interest rate for 2022. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Everybody saw the motion set where it's always been set for quite a while here. Jake? Any questions? Kathy? You're muted, Kathy.
Sorry about that. On the resolve, it has 2022-30. That should be 36, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just picked up on that. Okay.
Anything else? Jake?
Councilor Eastman?
Approve.
Councilor Morrison?
Approve.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve.
Mayor Stewart?
Approve.
Councilor Ormsby?
Approve.
Councilor Downs?
Approve.
Councilor Rankin?
Approve.
Next is Resolve 2022-37 to approve the purchase of a Indie Lift human floor lift. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Chief?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I've got a short video to show you, just so you know exactly what we're talking about, if you don't mind if I show that.
If you can make it work, you're a genius. Go ahead.
I think I can do it. You see that all right?
Nope.
Okay, you hold on just a minute here. You gotta get the right tab.
I bet Rich $5, just so you know, so.
Okay, you better get your $5 out. Here we go. How's that?
Got it going.
Okay.
Indulip human floor lifts for emergency medical services eliminate the manual lifting of patients, improving patient care while eliminating lift-related injuries to patients and emergency responders. In this video, we will demonstrate how first responders can easily and safely lift and transport heavy patients using Indulip's emergency services models. With Indulip, manual lifting will soon become a thing of the past. When the first responders arrive at the scene, they deploy the Indulip and proceed to the location of the incident. After normal triage, the patient is assisted onto the seat, and the first responders use the waist belt to secure the patient to the lift. With the simple press of a button, the patient is smoothly and gently raised to a height of 21 inches in about 1 minute. Once raised to the full height, the patient can be assisted from the Indulip seat to a standing position or be transferred to a wheelchair or gurney. At times, the patient can be down in an area that's difficult to access, such as a small space between a bed and a bedroom wall. In such cases, the IndyChuck is used. The first responders deploy the IndyChuck and place it next to the patient. Then they assist the patient onto the IndyChuck. Without bending or stooping over, as few as 2 emergency responders can simply slide the patient from the area with limited access to the location of the Indulip, where they use the IndyChuck to position the patient onto the lift. Indulip for EMS is also designed for patient transport. Once the patient is seated and secured using both the waist and chest belts, the first responder raises the seat 12 to 14 inches for proper balance, then gently tilts the Indulip rearward. They now use the Indulip like a dolly to easily maneuver the patient through tight spaces and around corners to a waiting gurney. If the patient is unable to sit up by themselves, it only takes one emergency responder to help tilt the patient onto the Indulip seat, where they can be secured to the lift and raised from the floor. Recovering a patient from a bathroom floor can be particularly challenging for a manual lift team. It only takes one responder to wheel the Indulip to the patient, where they can easily be recovered and secured to the lift, raised for proper balance, and then be safely transported out of the bathroom. With the detachable stair handles and stair track accessories, patients can be safely transported down stairwells. Once recovered from the fall and secured to the lift using the waist and chest belts, the stair handles and stair tracks make it easy for 2 responders to transport the heaviest of patients downstairs for transfer to a waiting gurney.
Speaking to other firefighters, the number one reason to use this.
We back? Can you hear me okay?
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Just so you know, DC Denning is here with me tonight. I've been working on this project for a bit with Captain Gavlik, and he helped me do the research on this. just a few numbers that I have in front of me is that our lift assists are starting to go up a lot. We've done 41 lift assists since July 1st. It's becoming a common thing. We don't always have a lot of people at those, even when we do. The last one that we did last Thursday, I believe it was 483 pounds. And even with 3 or 4 people, that was a hard lift to get people off the ground. So I do think that this is something that could be utilized with the ambulance rescue service, with the help of the police department also. In the pamphlet I gave you, and I did try to put in there the research we did. This is about the only EMS one that I could find besides here, and I think the other one was in England somewhere that I looked at. And the other pages would show you that there are certain lifts, and there's 3 of them that I showed you. Some of them are for home care type things, and some of them are for emergency services where you don't know whether you're going to be doing 100 pounds or 500 pounds or anywhere in the middle. And speaking with the Indy Lift rep, which I did last week, we would certainly take them up on the, if this is approved, we would certainly take them up on the 30-day no obligation trial with this machine. And if it works and we like it, we train on it and use it, then we purchase it. If we didn't, then we return it at no cost.
Thanks, Sean.
Any questions? You're welcome, sir.
Danny?
I have a few questions. The first question is, if you were to purchase this, would you be purchasing it with the stair attachment?
Actually, I did not put in for the back rails because we do have a stair chair on the ambulances with that back rail on it. And that is an additional cost of, I believe it was like $1,750. So I really didn't want to double up on something that we already have.
Okay. My other question is, how long do these generally last for?
If we purchase it in the EMS bundle, what he said was the 30-day no obligation. He said, I want you to take it. He said, I want you to try to break it because you won't be able to break it. It should last you a long time. And it comes with a unlimited 3-year warranty up front with the purchase. And I don't have the exact answer as to how many years it would last, but I can find it out for you. I know it has a 3-year replace it, no questions asked if it breaks for the first 3 years.
Okay. And my final question is, and you might not know this right off the top of your head because it's kind of a big one. Is there any additional liability with this?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that obviously we have insurance. That might be a Sue question to see if we're covered through Maine Municipal with that. Obviously, we wouldn't use it until we can't get the machine until at least 2 of us have watched the video. So Captain Gavlik and myself watched the training video. And obviously, as you know, we'd have full training with anyone before they could use it.
Yep. What's the difference between the stair lift that you have now and adding the tracks to this one? So is there a big difference between the two?
So basically, the Indy Lift is to get the lift off the floor, and you have the tracks on the back. And we have another stair chair in the ambulances that actually has that snowmobile track on the back of it that rolls. Yep. So the difference would be the lift and going down the stairs because we already had one with the tracks. We could transfer them if we needed to.
Okay. It kind of makes sense to me that if we were going to get one of these, we would get one with the tracks on the back, so it's one easy move from where we are to the ambulance.
Yeah, and I don't object to that. I don't. I just was thinking that we already had one of those, and if need be, we could try to transfer. But if the council wants to purchase it with that, obviously, it wouldn't be a bad idea for sure. So you didn't have to do the transfer for this extra money.
Sue, can you answer that question?
I can. The risk to patients in lift assist increases exponentially with the size of the person that you're lifting, because the risk of injury to the people lifting is greater, and the potential for dropping someone is greater. And so a piece of equipment designed to assist that way, properly used, belted in, all that, is a less of a risk, and it significantly in terms of our own employees and injuries, but also to patients who might be otherwise very difficult to get off the ground.
Any other questions?
This is the 500 that you're purchasing, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
I'd just add that, I mean, it'd be one thing if we had heard that, you know, since July 1st, say there had been 4 lift assists. But 7 a month? I mean, back to Town Manager Lassard's point, the risk of injury to either the patient or one of our employees seems to me like it would grow. It really is. It grows exponentially with every one, I think. So I think this is a good idea.
All right. Have a motion and a second, Jake?
Yep. Counselor, excuse me, Counselor Eastman?
Approve.
Counselor Morrison?
No.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve.
Mayor Stewart?
Approve.
Counselor Ormsby?
Approve.
Counselor Downs?
Approve.
Counselor Rankin?
Approve.
Next is Resolve 2022-38 to approve acceptance of Park Street and Broadway Extension as town roads. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sue? You're muted.
Excuse me. You have a letter from John and Karen Wardwell, signed by Karen, asking for this to be taken over. It identifies the remaining work that needs to be done on this roadway. The resolve incorporates that as well, understanding that they would be responsible for the final coat of paving, the catch basing, and the completion of some of the sidewalks are done, but the whole thing isn't completed. But this resolve would allow that those streets to be opened and maintained by the town, with that final work being done in 2022. I believe that Jay is on the call. I spoke to him about this and whether this would meet Public Works needs if it was accepted to open that road so that it was maintained. He indicated that it did. Jay, are you still on this call?
I am. I'm here.
That's all I got.
Any questions for Otis?
This provides a good opportunity because it opens up the ability for lots to be sold and other things to be done in that area for residential or some commercial in the lower part. That is something that the town has talked about for a long, long time. So,
I guess my only question was, and I don't not see it happening, but what if the work doesn't get done this year? What do we have anything to hold people accountable to that?
once this resolve is done, the letter and the acceptance, there has to be deed work done for this to be done. And truthfully, I 100% believe that these things will be done in this coming season. I don't think for a minute that is.
I don't either, but I have to ask the question of what if.
Well, the what if would have the legal recourse to say you signed this thing saying we took this over under these conditions and you haven't met them. It becomes a legal issue like everything else in the world if somebody doesn't do something. But the top coat, the final paving, regardless, it generally isn't done in the same. Usually, you put it into the next cycle so that the road and the base and all that is before you put your final top coat on. So the fact that that is in this and lifting the catch basins is not extensive work, and the majority of the sidewalk work is completed. Is that correct, Jay?
Yes, it's all completed on the new section. There was some question as to who would be paying for the sidewalk work that would proceed all the way down to the dollar store.
That's what's left.
Kathy?
Is the stop signs there a four-way stop sign, Broadway, Nicholson? Is that going to stay a four-way stop sign? Is there going to be a through street? Does anybody know? Is that a concern?
Discussions of that have been raised. I would defer to our public safety department to take a look at that issue in the signage of the roads once that is accepted.
Yes, we can take a look at that. You're talking about the four-way stop at the health center, Kathy, now?
Yes. I was just wondering if that was going to be a concern. And I mean, I don't have any problem with the street going through. I think it's a great idea, but I just have a concern with a four-way stopway, what that's going to do.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly something that I can look at.
Any other comments? Jake?
Councilor Eastman?
Approve.
Councilor Morrison?
Good, Jim.
Approve.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve.
Mayor Stewart?
Approve.
Councilor Ormsby?
Approve.
Councilor Downs?
Approve.
Councilor Rankin?
Approve.
Next is Resolve 2022-39 to sell Lot 8 in Phase 2 of Buckstown Heritage Park to Scott Redmond, doing business as Redmond Electric Corporation. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Rich, anything on this?
No, and I apologize earlier. I was conversing with Mr. Redmond trying to get him onto this meeting, so I apologize if I seemed a little distracted. I'm not sure. I don't see that he has made it on, but conversations with Mr. Redmond have actually been ongoing since 2017 for this project. He's recently moved to Bucksport, lives over on the Town Farm Road, comes highly recommended from the Senior State Electrical Inspector for the state of Maine. His business is in good standing. Once he moves into the industrial park, he'll register with the town. He's done work locally over in Orland at the campground. He's been extremely busy the last few years.
Any questions? Jake?
Councilor Eastman?
Approve.
Councilor Morrison?
Approve.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve.
Mayor Stewart?
Approve.
Councilor Ormsby?
Approve.
Councilor Downs?
Approve.
Councilor Rankin?
Approve.
Do any of these need signatures, Jacob, that we signed off on? None yet, right?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Next is appointments and assignments is Jacob Grand, Register of Voters appointment for 2022. How would the council like to proceed?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Comments, questions? Jake?
Counselor Eastman?
Approve?
Counselor Morrison?
Approve.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve?
Mayor Stewart?
Approve?
Counselor Ormsby?
Approve.
Counselor Downs?
Approve.
Counselor Rankin?
Approve.
Next is approval of quick claims, discharges, and deeds. We have Daniel Pye, tax lien, map 18, lot 76, 6/20/2018, 6/20/2019. How would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Comments, questions? Jake?
Counselor Eastman?
Approve?
Counselor Morrison?
Approve.
Deputy Mayor Bissonnette?
Approve?
Mayor Stewart?
Approve?
Counselor Ormsby?
Approve.
Counselor Downs?
Approve.
Counselor Rankin?
Approve.
Next, town manager report and department head reports.
The motion you just made on the quitclaim does need signatures, so if we could get those next week, that would be great. The town council needs to give some thought about who or what entity to nominate for the Spirit of America Award for this year. If you could please let me know some names for consideration, and I will put it on the agenda for our January 27th meeting. The Infrastructure Committee meeting scheduled for Thursday, January 27th at 6 o'clock will be held virtually. At the present time, items for that agenda include the animal shelter and animal control, the community garden idea, and the transportation/senior center bus proposal. The site visit for the animal shelter will be held at the beginning of March when it's later. The January 27th meeting will include a resolve to set the meeting dates for review of the 22-23 budget. I have set it up similar to the past several years where the majority of the budget review occurs in April and the beginning of May. The town also has contract negotiations this year, and I hope to have those completed well before fiscal year end so that the budget for their implementation is accurate. I met with a representative from the Stanford management that operates the Bucksport Square, home of our senior center, about the terms of the contract signed in 1992 and 2012. Both she and I are putting together some additional information and will be meeting again in mid-February to discuss the terms and any outstanding financial obligations that are on the part of the town. Jacob Buck and Bucksmill Road culvert projects, the replacement projects approved in the 2019 referendum vote are being bid out this spring for construction this year. Impact to travel will be coordinated to have as least impact on the traveling public and public safety as possible. The third year of the road project will be put out to bid within a month for completion this summer. Impacted roadways will be Silver Lake Road for reclaimed grade paved, as well as Broadway and some other in-town streets. Our routine 4 miles of paving will also be included in this bid. The medical center has received its first shipment of at-home COVID test kits and have supplied some to the town for use in the event that town employees may have been exposed. Those are housed at our public safety building and dispensed and recorded through a process that they have established if necessary. The final rule for ARPA is now in effect for the expenditure of those funds. The big change is that any community who chooses to do so can use a standard amount for revenue loss, which allows use of the funds for any government services with streamlined reporting. Meaning you don't have to prove that you had a loss. You can just take the standard, and that in some cases the standard would be high enough to absorb all the funds that you got, which gives you, and that can be used for any government service purpose. I attached to you the report that I sent out to you, an update on the final rule that was prepared by Maine Municipal Association. When we get to the point that we are talking more about this, I'll have more details on what that standard deduction looks like and what that would mean in terms of flexibility for the council and the use of these funds.
Thank you. Any questions? So I saw on Luke's report the motel had some water damage and some issues still going on. Do we know where that stands in the court system?
I do. According to our attorney, the clerk at the court said that the judge, this was several weeks ago, had taken a look at the filings. We have since that time not heard anymore. There's been no decision or indication of decision. If you saw the article in the Bangor Daily News, you know that water was on. Our public Deputy Chief Winchester had contacted our code officer because doors were open at the facility, and Luke and Rich went with him, went and secured doors and windows and a door open in the apartment over where the office was, and when they opened there, water was running in inches deep, and the water district came and shut that off. Luke notified our attorney, who notified their attorney, and so the water's off, but there's no heat. So with this, I can only imagine it's a skating rink in there, but the court has given us nothing.
So the owner had the water turned back on. Is he going to be allowed to have the water turned back on, or?
The water and the power were turned off by the owner prior to your designation of the building as a dangerous building. There were still people there. There were no power. There was no water. They had it shut off. Subsequent to that, at some point, the electricity was turned back on and the water was turned on. The contractor that the owner had sent here from New Jersey indicated to Luke that the water was only turned on as far as the meter, that was that. And clearly that wasn't the case. But it's what we were told. The electricity is still on. Again, since we have no ownership interest, the water was shut off by the water district because it was running freely from broken pipes. They had the ability to do that. We couldn't have just gone in and said, shut the water off, we don't want it off.
I guess my question is, if he claims that he's going to have a contractor show back up to work on that, and he can request the water to be turned on, is this the water company now that can say no, or are they bound to turn it back on? You know, if they put a piece of pipe over that to patch that, and what are we looking at? My concern is public safety. If he can just come and go and turn it on and off, and we have to go check it every day to see if it's running, that's a concern.
And my concern is that electricity is still on in a place that flooded.
Exactly.
Ceilings collapsed. All of that kind of stuff. Our attorney has reported it to the court, as well as just to show the seriousness of what's occurring here, but there hasn't been any response, and the water district won't turn it back on unless it knows that the pipes are all repaired.
Okay, all right. I guess that's what I was looking for, is that they just can't go do this. And
I've spoken to the water district superintendent, and he indicated that they're not going to turn it on unless they show that it's not just going to run into the basement. Okay. Is what it was doing.
Yeah, I certainly don't want our folks running into a place with running water, electricity still on, and all that stuff. So
I'm flummoxed as to how water could be left on in a building when it's single degrees in the winter and there's no heat source.
Sue, on plumbing at that building is still standing, so we'll go on from there. Thank you. Any questions? Next item is public hearings, and we have none we have no approvals of licenses, Jake, is that correct? Discussion of items not on the agenda for the council and the public. Give the public a chance to call or email. Anybody from the council have anything? Sue? I'm sorry, Kathy. I was looking right at Sue when I saw you raise your hand.
Well, I just had a question on the disposal of trash, because there was a big article in the Bangor Daily News about the Hamden trash. They don't think it's going to possibly ever open up. What are our thoughts? I mean, are we going to try to get back with PERC, or what are our plans?
We're actually with PERC now because that's the default for not doing it. The truth is that there's no good choice right now. There's PERC, which has its own set of issues in terms of being able to sell electricity produced there in a way that, and to manage the amount of trash that has been going there because of the communities that are in this region. And that's the only option other than landfilling, the only one. And so there's no really good option. And in my estimation, this will end up in the hands of the legislature at some point in order to determine solid waste management in Maine. Southern Maine, with the incinerator and landfill and the process they have there is, but from Augusta north, until you get to the Aroostook landfill, there's no choice except PERC, which is struggling, and landfilling. Those are the two current alternatives. We are not paying more than our contracted price for waste disposal with the initial Fiberite deal. That has not increased our costs. So it isn't that taking it to PERC when it was supposed to go someplace else has cost the town more. It hasn't.
So, but we still are going to the landfill also.
No, the only time they go to the landfill is when PERC can't operate.
Oh, okay.
And there had been times in this that they can't. They've had breakdowns. They've had too much waste so they couldn't accept anymore, which relates to their inability to process. So the only time that the town has used the landfill is when PERC hasn't been able to accept waste.
Okay. I was just wondering where we stood there and how it was working. Thank you.
It's totally dysfunctional, but it's because there's no options.
You may be seeing it in your other job, Kathy, is where this will probably all end
She
up.
will.
Any other comments? Rich, yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to let the committee know that we've got an economic development committee scheduled for Monday, January 24th at 6 p.m. And I'm sure, as you all are aware, we lost a valuable member of our team on the economic development committee when Mr. Frank Dunbar passed away. So I just want to send condolences to Jackie and the family on Frank's passing.
Thank you. Anything else? I lost somebody too, and I wanted to just give a quick thanks to Don Houghton, and the editorial that he put in last week's paper was touching. There were a lot of folks that passed away that were in their 80s and 90s, senior citizens that have been here for all of their lives, and and Don's editorial really was well done, I thought, on the folks that had obituaries in that paper and how he captured what those folks were. So that was, I thought that was a really nice job that he did there. So, all right, hearing nothing else, we got no phone calls, I assume, or emails.
No.
All right, because committee assignments and meetings, goals and objectives meeting date. I was thinking maybe the first meeting date in February, if that's what you were thinking, Sue.
The first regular, to schedule it like it before the council meeting, you
Correct.
mean? Or the,
Yep.
Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I was thinking.
So you were thinking like 6 o'clock on the 10th?
Yep. Does that work for everybody? Okay. Chief, I saw you standing up. Did you have something you wanted to say? I missed. I saw you moving. You're good? Okay. And then the infrastructure committee meeting we have set for 6 o'clock at our next meeting on the 27th.
That's going to be a busy meeting.
Yep. And the members of that, unless I hear differently, will stay the same as it has been, if that's okay with everybody.
So is there a point we're still planning on meeting at the animal shelter?
I think what we planned on, Danny, is we're going to talk about it. It's open at all times if people want to go and take a look at it.
Okay.
But with the way the days are and the length of days, it'd be nice to go out there when it's a little bit lighter. So I wanted to move a full, a chance for everybody in the council to just go take a look at it in first meeting in March. Hopefully it'll be a little bit lighter. But I would encourage folks, if you get a chance between now and any time, to go out and just take a look and talk to the folks out there. All righty. Nothing else? Take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you again very much. Everybody in favor? Thanks, folks. Have a great night. Keep up the good work, and
Yes.
looking forward to going strong again. So have a great night.
You too.
Good night.
You too.